Welcome to Steele Wars. I am comedian Steele Saunders, and I do love Star Wars! And we are here live at the Scum and Villainy Fan Cantina in Hollywood, California, to discuss The Last Jedi. 1 month of The Last Jedi. Just a slightly controversial film. Just a bit. So many YouTube videos. So many tweets. So much outrage. I watched a YouTube video today, you guys, and it was of a very angry man yelling at a Rey action figure that she is a worthless piece of plastic. Heads up, buddy. They're all worthless pieces of plastic. They all have been for the past 40 years. But you chose to record a video of you hitting it against a table while yelling at a doll of a 20-something lady. That is going to kill it on Tinder. And yeah, you're well on your way. You're well on your way. But what I said was, whatever you think about it, and sometimes not liking something can be fun if you do it the right way, but love a Star Wars film like a child, dislike a Star Wars film like an adult. And while you're at it, don't embarrass the rest of us, because it's already pretty iffy that we talk about this space film all the time. So let's just keep it like on the real, okay? That would be fantastic. That would be fantastic. All right, let's bring up our guests and we will chat about this amazing film that has got us all talking. Let's go, and round of applause as you please. Here's the editor-in-chief of Making Star Wars and co-host of our twice-monthly premium bonus show, Making Steele Wars. Please welcome the sunglassed man himself. It's Jason Ward. She's a writer for Nerd Reactor, and going into The Last Jedi was a passionate supporter of Kelly Marie Tran and a cosplayer of Rose Tico, and my Jimmy Kimmel buddy, it's Laura Sirikul! Our next guest covers Marvel, Stephen King, Steven Spielberg, and of course Star Wars for Entertainment Weekly. Those big cover stories are all due to him. He has a secret shame of his love of Chevy Chase Christmas films and his constant urging for me to call him the Brez, which is embarrassing. Welcome, Anthony Breznican. Our next guest made content history in co-hosting the very first live call-in show trailer viewing that also broke a rather expensive couch. She's a regular on Collider Jedi Council and Entertainment Tonight. It's Ash Crossan! And our final guest is the creative force behind the Han Solo Smugglers Gambit audio dramas at Star Wars Celebration and the writer and director of the beloved road trip comedy Star Wars themed movie Fanboys. It's writer, director, and Star Wars fan, Kyle Newman! Have you got a mic? Yes, you have got a mic. How you guys doing?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Kyle, can I borrow your dark glasses? Thanks. I just want to be as pretentious.
I feel
Jason.
comfortable now. I feel more comfortable.
Dude, those sunglasses are not going to make you as pretentious as Jason Ward. It takes years of internet gatekeeping.
I'll have to get to that, yeah.
All right, let's dip into it. Jason, now,
Still.
you run a little website called makingstarwars.com, is it?
.com.
.com.
Mark
Sorry.
Hamill's makingstarwars.com.
Okay, I don't Google stuff.
Yeah.
I just go to Mark Hamill tweets to find out what's going on. So MakingStarWars.net. Now, it's your business to find out what's going to happen in these films before they come out. When you watch the film, in retrospect, what did you find most surprising?
The most surprising thing to me was that Holdo was a huge hero in the film, because every little micro thing that got out about Holdo over the course of the production painted her at odds with Poe Dameron and the rest of the rebels. So the whole time, I'm convinced that she's probably a bad guy. And I knew that there was that scene where they have to like come and do the bridge, if you will. And so with that, I was like, why would Poe Dameron do that unless she's bad? And so the whole time, like, that was the big surprise to me, was like that she was one of the best heroes in the film.
I felt the same way.
Are you saying that your rumors were misogynist?
100%.
That's exactly how I felt about Ash Crossan before I got to know her.
Yeah. That's how most people feel.
Devilish.
Yeah, but unlike Holdo, at least Holdo can like pick one hair color.
Oh my fucking God.
I'm wondering, Jason, did you have any like hint of like the Force connection or the projection of Luke Skywalker?
I knew that he did a big trick at the end, and that there was going to be some ruse to it, but I didn't actually know what it was. That he was, what do you even call that? Astral projecting? I don't know.
That's what I've been calling it.
Yeah. Force projection.
I think it's called ruining childhoods.
Oh, right.
Also,
Because there was Adam Driver was involved in some of the shoot in Ireland, and that just made it super hard to figure out, because there was a time when we did question, are they having a connection? Is that what it is? So we thought he went there, but it was because he was there to read lines and stuff and to be like off camera so they could get their performance one-to-one.
he also says, I noticed on subsequent viewings, you could, when they're doing the Force Skype thing, he and Ray, he says you couldn't be doing this because the effort would kill you.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting foreshadowing for what happens at the end.
It's weird, you say Force Skype, when they were doing that a little banner didn't come down and say powered by Verizon.
No, you know what's cool about that though is at the very end of the film, Snoke's dead, and they're like still doing it, so it won't kill her.
No, but what he's saying is, if you were to project yourself to me here on this starship,
that would kill.
That effort
Gotcha.
would kill you.
Touching, playing patty cakes while you force time, that could kill you.
They still Force Skyped after he died, though. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, after dinner.
Yeah, but
She
we
closed the
still.
door on him.
But people say that, but we still FaceTime after the death of Steve Jobs.
What an analogy. Okay.
Bang. End of that. We're going to be ending some debates. It's not going to be in a tasteful way, but we will end a few debates. You sort of, like, I got to know you through The Force Awakens, and I think that's how a lot of people found out about the MakingStarWars.net website. How did your, like, reporting style change at all from The Force Awakens to The Last Jedi? Like a different sort of strategy?
Yeah, well, when we started, I didn't really get that if I said things, like there were people on Reddit and things like that would take what you said super seriously and take it in really far directions. So as I went on, I got like way more guarded, and it's way harder to write something. It was a lot more, in some ways more fun, because I didn't have to worry about as much. And now if I say something or I just use the wrong, not the wisest word choice or something like that, people take it the wrong way.
You are known for your wise choices of words.
Yeah, no comment.
It's true though. You could, casually say something and you set off a whole series of theories by accident.
Yeah, or it's like EW says, "Hey, something's coming," and people are like, "Oh, it's the movie. It's going to be online tomorrow."
Yeah.
Laura, I have a bit of a secret to tell you. Obviously, we did a podcast and it was based around how hyped you were about Kelly Marie Tran and Rose Tico being in the film. And just after I saw the film for the first time, you were going in and I was coming out, and
That's what she said.
I'd forgotten I couldn't remember if Rose was alive or not at the end of the film. Like that bit of her sitting on the bed, I hadn't clicked with me. Then I watched it the next time. I'm like, oh yeah, she's fine. But because I saw you and you're like, how was it? And I just went, just gotta go. And I just walked off on you.
Oh my God, that was so funny because I saw you. I was like, oh my God, so great to see you. And you're like, no. And walked away from me. I was just like, oh, okay.
You went in, you're cosplaying over this character, and you know sometimes people, like Jackie, my wife, is always like, you know, people get so amped about these characters before they've done anything in the film, and for you, did Rose Tico live up to the hype?
Yes. Everyone kept telling me, like, I was like, no, she's gonna be great, and like internally, I was thinking, oh shit. Oh crap, hopefully, yes, please be good. And then when I watched it and I saw the whole thing and I saw her dynamics, like she actually, I think anything that is beyond the stereotype of what an Asian person is good for me. But she overhyped that for me too. Like Rian really gave her such a well-developed character. Like we saw the highs and lows of Rose Tico. And so I felt really, I started crying. Because at first I was like, oh, she's angry, and then she was like fangirling over him, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is how I am, and so it's okay. And then when you started seeing her like caring and like on Canto Bright and just developed as a person, I just felt like so emotional. Like I was like, this is a real person that you gave me a whole movie of this person going up and down with emotions, and you gave me so much of her. And after the movie, I was just like, I'm so glad she didn't die, hopefully. And I just felt really, really happy. I felt satisfied as a person. Other than the kiss at the end, I was just kind of like, But
You didn't like the kiss?
Laura's more of a full-on tongue type of girl.
Like if John Boyega, if you're gonna go deep for John Boyega.
Oh, you didn't mind the idea of a kiss, but you didn't like the way it was executed.
No, I wasn't a fan of the kiss because it's so anticlimactic. Like where it's like, oh, I want to save you, silly. It's like kiss, and I'm like, okay. In my mind, I was like, she's fangirling over him. It's a fantasy in her head that like she had this like adrenaline rush. It's like I'm just gonna shoot my shot. She's not really, I don't think she's really in love with him. I think she just has this fantasy, like we went on this adventure and like the adrenaline, I almost died for you, I'm gonna kiss you. But I'm not big on like love kind of stories. So, but I mean, she did it, I was just like, I would do the same, so it's okay.
Now, one of the big criticisms online that I disagree with is that Rose's character is pointless in the film.
What? I'm sorry.
Pointless. You probably didn't want to hear it. And I've said that like the point is that she shows Finn that there's more to fight for than just her and Rey. Like there's, and so you can't, you might not like the point, but you can't say it's pointless. You just don't agree with the point.
Yeah, because of her, Finn realized he's a hero. Like he would have just left. And like there'd be no story, and then she wouldn't. And like she's the person who found the idea of going to the ship and finding that guy, and it's because of her. It made him realize what a hero he was, which I'm happy because I hate when the Asian person gets in other movies. The Asian person is enabled by the white savior or enabled by another character. She's the character that enables the hero, and
she's the catalyst.
Yeah, she's the catalyst to like Finn like becoming the hero that he is.
Yeah.
Can I sing a little backup for her in praise of Rose?
Yeah.
She also shows Finn, who has been conscripted into the First Order, like he's a child soldier essentially, and he tries to escape that. Then he ends up with the rebellion, and he also gets his ass handed to him through that. So like he just wants to get clear of the fighting, and she shows him through her story about first they mined us, then they bombed us, and now my sister has lost her life fighting them. Like she shows there is no running from the First Order, that there's nowhere you can go where you will be safe. So you may as well stand up for what you believe in. And I think that's a really important thing for someone from his limited perspective, which isn't necessarily his fault, but he is limited by what he sees, just to realize, no, actually I do have to fight.
And then she also has the best line in the end of the movie.
Yep.
Like that was it really made you pause and just be like, oh my God, this is, and it makes you
The
think.
motto
like,
of 2018.
Yeah, like we save the things we love. Like we're not. Oh, we save the things we love. Sorry, I had a fuse, so
That's how we win.
This is my voice.
Not by fighting
Yeah.
what we hate, but saving what
saving
we love.
what we love.
Can I say something?
Of course you can,
The
Kyle.
the message of that is fantastic, and I can agree with it. I felt like she said I didn't buy the kiss. I felt like such an impeccably directed movie, but it was so weird blocked. It was really awkward. She kissed and then fainted, and it just felt really weird. And I felt like for the message, which was important to really connect, there had to be some sacrifice involved in it. I wanted her to say, you don't fight what you hate, you save what you love. Saved him, taught him the lesson, imparted this to him, and it just felt like she should have died in that moment. Like,
No.
he didn't die, and I know she should have. I just felt like it would have hit home, because I'm also thinking, all right, next film, what is her role then? Where do you go with Rose beyond just we don't want to kill her because we killed her sister? So I just felt like it's more impactful. If you're going to do something, commit to it, have balls, see it through. And I feel like the message has more weight if it didn't even have to get romantic for me. You know,
Well-
it just was like, wait, where did this come from? I didn't buy that.
I noticed that when you said that she probably should have died, you looked in such an opposite direction of Laura.
I told her beforehand. And I said, I like Rose, and I love Kelly Marie Tran. I got to meet her. She's an amazing person. So I'm really happy for her. The movie is a tremendous showcase for her. She killed it on the biggest stage with fantastic actors. But I thought, like, regardless of that, the message of it, how do you make the message have the most impact? I felt like for her to impart that, then pass by actually sacrificing herself and saving what she loved, he's left with the resonance of something to then carry into the next film. I don't know where it goes from there. I feel like now they're going to be dating, and it's going to be weird next. I don't know where it goes.
It's this weird new trilogy ring theory where at the end of the film there's a poorly framed emotional moment.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's Chewie walking past Leia, which I was just instantly, this
Still
is
offended by that.
unforgivable, and then they've done it. So it's like this Star Wars trope at the end of the film, and at the end of Rogue One, that bizarre hand-holding scene that just went on for way too long. So there you go. There's the new trilogy ring theory. Now, Anthony Breznican, sorry, the Brez.
By the way, I ask him not
Yes,
to
he
call
does.
me that.
Yes, he does.
Brez is fine. The Brez is. That's as pretentious as wearing sunglasses in a dark bar, if you ask me.
You need sunglasses?
Hey, you're the one who texted me, and I said, "Oh, Mr. Breznican." You said,
The Brez.
Breznican's my dad's name. Call me the Brez.
God, it's all fun and games. Now, you got to speak to the cast and crew all throughout the production, which we're very grateful for. The articles and stuff were you're very generous. You go the extra yards, which we appreciate.
Thanks.
Was there anything after seeing the film, any conversations that you had with the cast and crew that kind of like shed new light? Like, oh, they were trying to tell me something that after the film I'm like, ah.
Yes, actually, there were things in the stories. I work really hard not to put spoilers out there for people because I don't want it to be spoiled for me, and inevitably I do.
That is what most non-sunglasses people do.
But like, no, you know, most readers would be understandably upset. Like if I were to say, like, I know this twist that happens, and here it is. Like, most people don't want that, and I find those things out throughout reporting. But I actually will try to protect the surprises of the narrative by not revealing them. But sometimes someone will say something, and I'll be like, "That's a cool detail," and they've said it without any hint that that's a spoiler. And then after I see the movie, I'm like, "Oh, damn! I wish I hadn't put that in a story." Like for instance. When I wrote about the Crystal Foxes, like we did this whole piece in Entertainment Weekly about sort of what their actual name is and sort of just what is that creature, how does it fit in? It's from Crate, obviously. The Creature Shop chief Neil Scanlon said like they wanted the idea of like an animal that lives on this land, that it's not a wasteland, that there's actually life there, but it takes on the characteristics of the landscape, so it has these sort of crystals instead of fur. Like, oh, that's cool. And then he's like, yeah, and like they lead the rebels through these caverns there and illuminate their way. And I'm like, oh, cool. There are, like, I took that to be like there are caves on Crate. not a huge spoiler. And then in the movie, when they're like, how are we gonna get out of here? There's only one way out. And I was like, oh no, man.
I don't think anyone is upset about that.
I actually went back to that story and took that quote out. And then I found out after the fact that Rian had called some of the publicists and was like, what do we do? And they were like, it doesn't read like a spoiler, so people aren't gonna know it's a spoiler. Like, but had I known, a twist in the climax is how are they going to get out of here, I would never have put that in the story. So things like that, I'm kind of like, I didn't mean for that to be a spoiler, but I feel like it kind of was.
And then on the next page, there was that double page spread about how rocks float. So
yeah, rocks float, and then I was like, here's how Luke dies.
Ashley.
Yes.
First up, I have to ask you, like, I know you've seen the film a few times.
Yes.
Did you notice those little bird things on Luke's island?
Where?
They were everywhere.
In the movie?
Yeah.
Huh. Sounds pretty amazing. What were they?
Yeah, I don't know, but they should merch them
No, Porgs
eventually.
lived up to the hype, if you're wondering how I felt. I love Porgs. I love them. They weren't overused. They were fine.
Ash Crossan is the queen of Porgs.
Yes.
She's like the Jane
Brez just
Goodall
said
of Porgs. What Jane?
Yeah, so...
I picture you like Danny DeVito in one of the Batman when he was the Penguin.
You picture me like Danny DeVito?
No, and you're walking around and all the Porgs are following you.
What's wrong with you?
They're just following you around Central Park.
She's like Daenerys Targaryen, but she comes out into battle and like instead of swooping over her giant dragons, it's like 3 little Porgs. Fall to the earth like pot pies.
People are relentless though. Like just today on Twitter, Christian Harloff tagged me in a video of a Porg getting impaled by a lightsaber. What's wrong with you guys?
Oh yeah, someone said that
I don't applaud that.
Someone photoshopped, which they were just begging for, that the lightsaber does turn on at the start.
Yeah, somebody did it.
And it doesn't work out well.
No.
What did you think of Chewbacca once he had that sweet roast pork?
Oh my God, that moment, I screamed in the theater. So we were like at the premiere, and my antagonist throughout this whole thing has been Ken Knapsack. He's the one that's like, tweet Ashley freaking Porg recipes. And I'm sitting 2 rows behind him just by chance, and that scene comes on, and I'm just like, no! And you just hear Ken cracking up like 2 rows ahead of me. I felt the whole theater just be like, staring at me.
It was the closest I've ever been to going vegan. It is...
But the thing is, why? Like, he already killed them. Just take a bite. Like, you already did it.
What about that photo with the feathers in his mouth? Like,
I think there are deleted scenes of just wanton Porg violence.
the feast scene. But we watched the trailer together.
Yes, we did. I broke your couch.
The couch is actually, it's from Living Spaces, and something is broken inside it, but I don't know, I haven't been able to find what it is.
Okay.
But it made a huge noise.
It was like the loudest crack.
But I think one of what sort of started the huge wave of against The Last Jedi is it was against what people expected happened in the film. Do you know what I mean? People have had like either, 35 years or 2 years, how you want to measure it, to find out what happened to Luke Skywalker and
Ruined
that
my
afterwards.
childhood.
How do you think like the trailers and the promo like prepared us?
Yeah, it literally said in the trailer, this is not going to go the way you think. I mean, it was right. Here's the thing with Force Awakens, I felt like, even though we hadn't met these characters yet, I don't know if you guys felt this way, I felt like the movie was pretty easy to figure out before we even saw it. It was pretty predictable, and the trailers just lent to that. And The Last Jedi was, I had no idea what was going to happen in that movie beyond like some basic character pairings. Like, I had no idea, and I thought the trailers were brilliant that way.
Do you think the promo, I don't know, it's hard to work out when, say when you were interviewing Rian Johnson, do you sort of look back now and go, like, did he know that it was going to have this polarizing effect?
I don't know. I mean, wasn't it the same way with the prequels? Like, I feel like it's always been this way, and this is like, I don't know. I feel like I've had conversations with Pablo about this, and he's Pablo Hidalgo, and he's like, it's always like this. This is not new. This isn't like this crazy new thing that's dividing the fan base. This always happens.
The difference, I do think there's a difference. There is division, but with the prequels, we knew mythologically where it was going. It was just how you were connecting the dots, and this is fresh territory. And I'm fine, me personally, I'm fine with them going anywhere with it as long as they narratively justify it. So I think that's where there's a difference. That's where there is derision and division.
Yeah, it's like the prequels had that, and that was sort of the curse of it, that it had this preordained path that you knew where everything was gonna, like where the parts had to end up.
You knew there was Clone Wars, but you know the clones were going to be fighting. You didn't know how things were going to play out.
Yeah.
You didn't know how it was going to get to the point where they were at odds on Mustafar. But you knew on an intellectual level and how the myth was going to play out. And I think in here, people were like, wait, what the F just happened? Like, how did that happen? Why did that happen? Is that the only way we could have gotten there? And I think that's where my mind is still processing. And I think that's where I think a lot of fans are. You know, I walk down the street.
Sounds pretty amazing. What were they?
Yeah, I don't know, but they should merch them
No, Porgs
eventually.
lived up to the hype, if you're wondering how I felt. I love Porgs. I love them. They weren't overused. They were fine.
Ash Crossan is the queen of Porgs.
Yes.
She's like the Jane
Brez just
Goodall
said
of Porgs. What Jane?
Yeah, so...
I picture you like Danny DeVito in one of the Batman when he was the Penguin.
You picture me like Danny DeVito?
No, and you're walking around and all the Porgs are following you.
What's wrong with you?
They're just following around Central Park.
She's like Daenerys Targaryen, but she comes out into battle and like instead of swooping over her giant dragons, it's like 3 little Porgs. Fall to the earth like pot pies.
People are relentless though. Like just today on Twitter, Christian Harloff tagged me in a video of a Porg getting impaled by a lightsaber. What's wrong with you guys?
Oh yeah, someone said that
I don't applaud that.
Someone photoshopped, which they were just begging for, that the lightsaber does turn on at the start.
Yeah, somebody did it.
And it doesn't work out well.
No.
What did you think of Chewbacca once he had that sweet roast pork?
Oh my God, that moment, I screamed in the theater. So we were like at the premiere, and my antagonist throughout this whole thing has been Ken Knapsack. He's the one that's like, tweet Ashley freaking Porg recipes. And I'm sitting 2 rows behind him just by chance, and that scene comes on, and I'm just like, no! And you just hear Ken cracking up like 2 rows ahead of me. I felt the whole theater just be like, staring at me.
It was the closest I've ever been to going vegan. It is...
But the thing is, why? Like, he already killed them. Just take a bite. Like, you already did it.
What about that photo with the feathers in his mouth? Like,
I think there are deleted scenes of just wanton Porg violence.
the feast scene. But we watched the trailer together.
Yes, we did. I broke your couch.
The couch is actually, it's from Living Spaces, and something is broken inside it, but I don't know, I haven't been able to find what it is.
Okay.
But it made a huge noise.
It was like the loudest crack.
But I think one of what sort of started the huge wave of against The Last Jedi is it was against what people expected happened in the film. Do you know what I mean? People have had like either 35 years or 2 years, how you want to measure it, to find out what happened to Luke Skywalker and then afterwards.
My childhood.
How do you think like the trailers and the promo like prepared us?
Yeah, it literally said in the trailer, this is not going to go the way you think. I mean, it was right. Here's the thing with Force Awakens, I felt like, even though we hadn't met these characters yet, I don't know if you guys felt this way, I felt like the movie was pretty easy to figure out before we even saw it. It was pretty predictable, and the trailers just lent to that. And The Last Jedi was, I had no idea what was going to happen in that movie beyond like some basic character pairings. Like, I had no idea, and I thought the trailers were brilliant that way.
Do you think the promo, I don't know, it's hard to work out like when, like say when you were interviewing Rian Johnson, do you sort of look back now and go, like, did he know that it was going to have this polarizing effect?
I mean, wasn't it the same way with the prequels? Like, I feel like it's always been this way, and this is like, I don't know. I feel like I've had conversations with Pablo about this, and he's Pablo Hidalgo, and he's like, it's always like this. This is not new. This isn't like this crazy new thing that's dividing the fan base. This always happens.
The difference, I do think there's a difference. There is division, but there's a with the prequels. We knew mythologically where it was going. It was just how you were connecting the dots, and this is fresh territory. And I'm fine, me personally, I'm fine with them going anywhere with it as long as they narratively justify it. So I think that's where there's a difference. That's where there is derision and division.
Yeah, it's like the prequels had that, and that was sort of the curse of it, that it had this preordained path that you knew where everything was gonna, like where the parts had to end up.
You knew there was Clone Wars, but you know the clones were going to be fighting the Jedi. You didn't know how things were going to play out.
Yeah.
You didn't know how it was going to get to the point where they were at odds on Mustafar. But you knew on an intellectual level and how the myth was going to play out. And I think in here, people were like, wait, what the F just happened? Like, how did that happen? Why did that happen? Is that the only way we could have gotten there? And I think that's where, that's where my mind is still processing. And I think that's where I think a lot of fans are. You know, I walked down the street, like my son got out of the car the other day at a coffee shop, and he ripped up this paper Millennium Falcon, he threw it on the ground, he's like, I'm done with Star Wars. He's 4. I don't know what was going on. But then some guy sitting on the coffee bar, he goes, that kid must have seen The Last Jedi. And then someone else goes, oh, that thing sucked. And then I walk inside and people are like, that movie blows. And I was like, went to pick up my dry cleaning, and some guy's like, you're a big Star Wars fan? Why'd it suck? I'm like, oh my God, and I'm defending it. And I'm like, I kind of see where they're all coming from, but I'm also the defender in these social circles or where I go, because I understand I can justify it and see what they were doing, but I don't think it was programmed, baked into the DNA of the movie. And I think the shortcomings of Force Awakens in hindsight set them up with some questions and precipices that they jumped into. So that's a bigger thing. But I think that's what the difference is between the prequels and this, is because prequels were just like, where's my Han Solo? It was like that kind of stuff. And this is a totally different type of issue.
I do feel like the office therapist, like with what you were saying. Like people come to me to talk about their feelings about Star Wars. Very tired.
Yeah. Yes, I've had a lot of conversations the past month, and it's been a hard month.
I like
it's 1 month since the release. It's been a hard month.
I love that there's all these, people like going, you ruined my childhood. And
That's so fake.
No, but
just stop. If you say that, just stop. Just grow up and stop.
But your son's tweeting.
Is still there.
Your son's tweeting. You ruined my now.
I did ruin his. He hasn't seen it. His favorite character. He's only seen A New Hope, and I realized a good way, if you have kids, for them to experience a Star Wars film, and you want to break it in, is don't watch it at home where they can get up and walk around and play with dumb Legos. Sit them in a car, strap them in, and force them to watch it on repeat like Clockwork Orange. So he watched it like 5 times in a row, and his favorite character is Dianoga. Dianoga, yes. His favorite character is the trash compactor monster. It's his first Star Wars Lego. He watched the whole movie 5 times. I was like, what did you love? He's like, trash compactor monster. It's his favorite character. And then he ripped up a Millennium Falcon.
If that movie were new today, people would be like, that trash compactor monster was stupid. Just an eye on a tendril.
True, but and I think there is a lot of comparison going on in the fan community. Like, well, they didn't do this in A New Hope, and they didn't explain Tarkin or the Emperor. And you're like, hold on a second. That was an all-in film in 1977. He scraped it together. He barely got it going. He put every great idea he could into that film, not knowing he was going to do prequels or sequels. And that stands on its own. It's like he's just making the best movie, not knowing if I'm ever going to need to have a backstory. So take your backstory argument, stuff it in your pocket, sit on it. It's not valid.
Okay, I will take your stuffed backstory argument, get it back out of my pocket.
Put it here. Let's talk about it then.
And also say we didn't know much about the Emperor by the time Return of the Jedi finished.
Except we felt the Emperor. We felt the effects of the Empire and the Emperor and his tyranny permeate every single character in their lives. Han Solo is Han Solo. He is the nihilist he is. He is the self-centered, self-serving guy he is because he's been forced to. It's imperial rule. That's why he's jury-rigged his ship. That's why he does what he does. That's why he's only out for himself. That's the nature of the galaxy. Luke, even in the way he lives, what he comes from, how he dresses, it's this trickle-down of the oppression. Princess Leia, everyone is so clearly drawn, and they're all characters and reflections of what the Empire means and does. That is void in Force Awakens. We don't get a sense of the threat of the First Order. We don't know why there's a First Order. We don't know how it affects, other than, we're kind of told in novels how it affects. Most people don't know what the hell Hosnian Prime was, unless you've read the books or know about deleted scenes. It's not in the DNA on screen of the film. So it's void of the politics and consequently void of some of the emotional consequence of it. So you do want to know how Snoke became the head of the Imperial Remnant. How did he get this machine? How did he exist for 1,000 years unbeknownst to the Jedi and the Sith? How is he on screen more powerful than the Emperor, allowing two people to cross space and time and touch each other? It's kind of important to me. And he doesn't have to say, hi, my name's Bill, it's my real name, I'm from a planet called, Rathos Prime. I don't need that. What I want to know is that he says just something like, I've waited 1,000 years for them to play their game. Now the real prophecy. Something that steeps it in a little more importance. So it's not just some asshat guy that comes out of nowhere that owns everything the Emperor used to own. How did he? It's kind of important. And people can say, oh, it's a Tarkin, we didn't know what he did, or we didn't know what the Emperor did. We did, because we also got that story, and this is coming 9 films in, 40 years in, and if you're going to make a sequel, you then have to justify and have fun with it. It's a challenge for the filmmaker and the storyteller to say, how can I make this fresh, but how can I also kind of give hints as to why it evolved like that? And I know everyone's like, read Chuck Wendig's books. I read them. Don't. I didn't love them. I'm sorry. They were void of fairy tale, void of fantasy, unnecessarily violent, and I felt like I don't want to find out how the First Order came to be in a Chuck Wendig book. I want to find out some of that in the DNA of these films. So I love these films, but yes, you can love the movies and still have criticisms that are valid without people telling you you're wrong or insane. And it's okay as fans to get together and talk about it and say, this didn't make sense for me. This doesn't feel right. I still love the movie. I'm going to watch it more than any other movie that came out in 2017. I already have. But I can still have issues with it, and that's what's part of being a fan, and part of what's fun about it is to get into that, roll up your sleeves and talk about it, and why did this not work, why did it? But I can see there's people like, you don't need that, and for them, they didn't need it. But for me, I felt like it was essential and vital and one of those missing ingredients in the soup.
Yeah, and I think it's important to clarify that it's okay to find faults in a film as long as those faults come from a sane, not getting an action figure and beating it over a table and yelling at it place. So for you, if Snoke had mentioned, I've been waiting this for 1,000 years, would, just say that line was in there, would that put you, more at ease with the whole,
Yes, because it was an unceremonious end, which is fine. I love the surprise of that. And what I liked about this film was there was subjection of expectation. But I don't want that to happen just for the sake of it. So it feels like these TV-type cuts. It's got to have an impact or a surprise to it or riff off what came before. Because like I said, you are coming 9 films in, 40 years in. It's a pop culture phenomenon. Everybody on this planet knows what we're talking about. So therefore, that is the challenge and the fun of this type of storytelling, is to then riff off that and play with it and elevate it and challenge it. And I felt like they were like, we don't need to tell you that because Rey doesn't need to know that. Okay, that's fine. But if you applied that to every single story, it'd be bad storytelling. It's just, you have to give your audience, that's fun with context. And I felt that was underserved. So, yeah.
So is your contention that, because I sort of look back at previous films and go, well, they did that in this. So that's Star Wars. But you're saying that, the context is that it's the 9th film.
So on one hand, everyone's saying, well, it's so different and Star Wars needed to change, so thank God they finally did it. On the other hand, we're like, well, it's just Star Wars and you can default to these things. So you can't have both. There's a lot of issues for me. On one hand, everyone's publicly talking about how this is the democratization of the Force. And I'm like, that's great. I love that idea. Only thing is they didn't do that. They essentially took somebody and made her a new chosen one. The Force calls to you, this lightsaber's for you, it's Arthurian legend, she's picked, she's had visions since she was born. Who, what girl? Everything is steeped towards this girl is special. It wasn't like Finn, dude, you got to learn the Force, quick, learn it. And he's like, okay, and he learns it. That's the democratization of the Force. And he's like, sets up a Congo line. He's like, let's all learn the Force. And they all learn the Force. That's the democratization of the Force. Not creating a new chosen one and publicly telling everybody we democratized it, but really what you did was you made a new chosen one, but you don't want to ever answer a question about it. That's fine, but I think there's a major disconnect between what they pitched it as and what we got. And I'm fine with it being what it is, but don't call it what it's not. So that's where I'm at in my fandom. I'm like, things could have been done better. I like it, but it could have been better.
But things could always be done better.
But it's Star Wars. You're up here. It's the goddamn Olympics. Deliver. You know what I mean? You get one race. That's your Last Jedi. That's it. That's your episode 8 forever. Deal. Do it. Make it great. You got to think about all those things. You got to say, are we checking all those boxes so it makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Rogue One, everything better? And if it's not, and you're just saying, whatever, that's not good enough. It's not. So while I enjoyed the movie for what it was, is it a great movie? Is it impeccably directed? He's a badass director. He's a great human being. He's a thoughtful, empathetic, smart, brilliant guy. He directed a great movie. I don't think the script was all there. That's kind of what my problem is.
Now, when we spoke on the podcast, we discussed Luke, and Luke's very important to both of us. And this is one thing that people aren't getting angry enough about this film. Is that Luke Skywalker in the film doesn't say, I only know one truth. Robbed. I want it. But, sorry, Ash?
No, I just wanted to know how you felt when Luke had the lightsaber and you're like, all right, he's about to ignite it, and it's the blue lightsaber. I just thought of you instantly.
What would you notice was yellow?
Yeah. I was like, because I wasn't really paying attention to like the hilt, and I was just like, he's gonna do it, and then it's like blue. I was like, oh, Steele.
Yeah, it's
It actually did this. I was like, it was a short saber.
It's strange when you talk about something nonstop for 2 years. You do astral project into everyone's screening of the film.
Ignite the green. Ignite the green shirts.
But when they had the first flashback and they had him with the green lightsaber, in my head I was like, he's not fighting with this green lightsaber.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't have shown it then. So I was sort of just like, deal with it. Let's move on. Let's see what happens.
Was that enough for you? This is my podcast. Now
You
I'm
did
asking the questions.
technically ignite the green.
You did.
Yeah, I sort of thought about it afterwards, and I did a podcast with Jackie on the way to the airport, and I sort of come to this realization that Ignite the Green was, I don't know, this sounds a bit like much, but it was like a metaphor for like, I just want Luke to be a hero, and I don't have much of an imagination, so like that's how he does it, by igniting a green lightsaber and running around killing everyone. So that's why I'm not writing Star Wars films, and there's other reasons. But so I sort of realized like I just want him to be a hero and like inspire again, because that was like when I was a little kid, and I found that he didn't just cut the Emperor with the lightsaber so weird when I was little. Like, I really had to think about it a lot, about why don't you just cut him? Just cut him. And it took me, like, years to sort of work out, like, what that message was. So I'm so at peace with it. The surprising thing is that I'm shocked at how at peace I am with it. I should have an action figure of Luke Skywalker and be banging it on the table.
Did this really happen? This is the second time you've mentioned that. Did somebody really do that?
Yeah. I watched it this morning, this YouTube video of this dude screaming at a Rey figure. And
he bangs it against the table?
Yeah, and just calls it a worthless piece of plastic.
Is he single?
This was a child?
He's single forever. Rey is my favorite character. Rey and Kylo are my favorite characters since 1980. It has nothing to do with me liking them as characters. I think they could have done even more and could have gone further with some of these things.
But what I wanted to ask you was about that you said that you wanted Luke to tell Yoda that the Jedi must end.
Yes.
How did you feel about Luke and Yoda's interaction?
I liked it. I loved the ultimate message. The most powerful message for me in the film was Yoda telling him to pass on the education of failure is just as important as your strengths. And I thought it was really, really well done, and it was poignant. I very much. As soon as that trailer came out, I've never believed that Luke would have restarted the Jedi Order. I've accepted it. I just never believed he would have dishonored his father's sacrifice and the balancing of the Force and all that to just set up a new academy and give people Jedi mullet braids and do it all over and be like, forget that. Let's just do it again. And and I know there's a disconnect. George Lucas doesn't like the EU because they did that, but he knew it kept the Empire alive. In the DNA of Return of the Jedi, Luke kind of rejects Jedi and Sith, and he embraces love, the same thing Anakin embraced, and he goes, and that's the only way he kind of, he rejects his elders, and there's the only way he unlocks his father, and the Emperor's blindsided by it, and it's a new way of doing things. And I just don't believe he would have regressed and then recreated a Jedi Order. But I was like, so great, he's finally ending it, and saying it has to end. So I like that. And you know what it is? It took weeks, and about a week ago, I was like, this is my issue. And I don't know if I'm ever going to get over it, or maybe I will, because my estimation of these movies just always changes, and you learn so much from each film. But it was, I can accept the fact that Luke, they gave him the same backstory as Han Solo, and he ran away from his problems. And that was a little cheap, but I was like, they both ran away from essentially Snoke and his meddling with politics and family. I was like, okay, the two greatest heroes of the Galactic Civil War just disappear. Fine. And then he towers over his nephew, and Luke, the man who could look into the greatest evil, to him, the scariest thing on the earth is even more scary than the Emperor, is that his father is the darkest thing. And he sees one kernel of good, and he hangs everything on that, and he does that leap of faith. That he towers over his nephew in his pajamas drinking his little milk, and he's like, I'm going to murder you. In a momentary lapse of reason, I believe that Luke could have that momentary lapse. I accept that. The fact that Luke then failed to, or decided not to remedy that in any way, knowing that his cataclysmic misjudgment then created the greatest evil, that then he checked out to let everyone suffer. That's where I said, I don't know if that's what I would have done. And I'm still grappling with that, because I don't feel like that was, you could still get Luke going to Octo, checking out, turning himself off from the Force, making a mistake in that ill judgment, but you could also find out that he tried something and it didn't work. We know that Obi-Wan and Yoda tried to overthrow the Emperor and Anakin, and they only were 50-50 in that. But the fact that Luke didn't even try, was it a momentary lapse of reason, or was it a complete mental breakdown? And so they've justified it as a momentary lapse of reason, but there's greater ramifications. And that, I think, at the core of it is a major rift, in where fans are like, ruined your childhood. It didn't ruin your childhood, but you can talk about these things in an intelligent way. And so so I have to accept it now, because I love Star Wars. I'm not going anywhere. It's in my life forever. I live and bleed Star Wars. I just have to find a way to wrap my head around it. And I haven't wrapped my head around that. And I feel like it was cheap storytelling to begin with, to have the two greatest heroes just check out and run away from a character they didn't give me a backstory. Snoke did it all. He got to bend too early. He tormented the Skywalker solo families. Han ran away. It's all Snoke, but yeah, we're not affording it. And then it's hard for me to still justify Luke's.
Now, Jason, you're a big prequel guy.
Yeah.
Now, at the end of the prequels, some bad stuff happened, and our two heroes both ran away. Do you see a similar path, or there is a difference?
Well, my take on it is that if our old heroes live up to our expectations, we don't need new ones. And we were going to always need a new generation to come in and save the day. Because I kind of feel like my interpretation of Star Wars from the prequels to the original trilogy in that order is that the next generation are going to save us. Luke Skywalker is going to save us because Uncle Obi-Wan and Daddy Skywalker, they didn't do it right. So now Luke comes in, and his perspective is still more correct than Yoda and Obi-Wan, who think, at first anyways, you got to kill him. You got to go fight your dad. They kind of changed that over time, what that meant. But they initially are telling Luke, you're going to have to face him. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to murder him, but that's what you're led to believe back in the day anyway. So with that in mind, we end up in this place where if those guys were perfect, then Rey, Finn, and Poe, they're never going to be anything to us. Like that, they have to drop the ball at some point. And I think that it ties into all. I think all of the. I want to do a podcast with Kyle so bad now because of everything that you said. I could talk for 45 minutes. But like Rose. Rose is, in my opinion, Rose is Finn's broom boy. Like, we got Luke Skywalker. He does this great thing. Broom boys heard the myth. Now at the end, he's dreaming of it. We know in 20 years, the galaxy's going to have a new savior if they need it. That kid's coming. Rose, to Finn, he was a janitor on the Starkiller base and then kind of goes through the ranks, but then ends up defecting. Rose is the same thing. She's effectively the janitor of the Resistance. She's the maintenance person. And then by the end of that movie, she's doing exactly what Finn does. And so Finn learns, I think, the message that Skywalker puts out there in that moment, too. I think he could. I think that if there's a good opportunity, and when we get to 9, that Rose is going to be our Finn 2.0, and those people who are going to be the leaders of the new resistance, or the new rebellion, I should say, are going to know that, yeah, it is important that we save lives. It is important that that person you think is nobody is going to be the person that comes in and saves the day or ruins your day. And that's why I think it was good that Rose survived, because at that moment now we have the opportunity for that idea to go forward.
I like that.
Yeah, but if they don't do it in 9, I totally take it all back.
But here's the thing: you talked about the heroes failing or the next generation having to do it, and I Obi-Wan and Yoda failed.
Yeah.
They didn't quit. What they did was then they learned from Qui-Gon. They learned how to become better Jedis. They defaulted and said, "You're our new master, Qui-Gon
Right.
of the Living Force. We're going to learn from you because you did it right." And they stood vigil, and they were hoping a next generation was coming. Thus, the New Hope. It was really like Han and Luke check out. They didn't leave plans behind. They didn't have any machinations of helping anyone they loved or care about the greater universe. They just checked out.
Yeah, but that's Yoda.
That's
Like, Obi-Wan
fine.
had a job. Yoda just went, I'm chilling, dude.
To me, it felt like narrative convenience. You can do it with Han, and Han did it because Luke did it. Han left after that because they got to his son, because Luke failed his son. So then if you're going to do it with one of the characters, you then have to narratively somehow show emotionally so I can accept and feel it in The Last Jedi to then have, so I can go back to The Force Awakens and go, oh God, that's really emotionally what broke Han. And it didn't do that thing. Like, I like these movies to be reflexive and connect and elevate. And those are just opportunities like staring you in the face. Like, Kylo Ren talks about killing his past all movie. Why weren't the people like Snoke rains lightning at his feet, and all he has to say is like the Praetorian Guards snap to attention with their weapons, and you could say your Knights of Ren answer to me now. So then when he kills the Praetorian Guards, he's literally fucking killing his past. That's the same movie. He's fighting the same fucking people, only now it's imbued with more. It's right there in the DNA what they shot. They're all wearing different armor, different weapons. It's just like, I mean, maybe they're going somewhere with the Knights of Ren, but it was such like an impactful part of that force back. And then it just felt like, well, let's forget that idea. It felt like a little bit of posturing between two filmmakers. Like, this was important, screw you. Like, the lightsaber over the shoulder, to me, I was waiting for Billy Crystal to come back. I'll take it if nobody wants it. It was just like, it was like the Academy Awards, like, spoof. It was like MTV Movie Awards. I still can't wrap my head around. He could have done anything other than that.
No, he couldn't have.
Yes,
he couldn't have. Because if that moment
You're only
was
saying that
built
now
up,
because they did that. And the fact is, it breaks
no.
my heart.
This is the thing. I record
not
every
in an emotional
conversation
way.
I have. We can go back and listen.
It's unforgivably ridiculous.
Okay, here's the deal.
I
moment
just can't.
has been built up for 2 years. Like more so that like we thought Mark Hamill was going to be in The Force Awakens.
To do that. You can't. I see what people say. Well, what else can you do? He could say it means nothing to me now. It's yours. He could discard it in a different way. But to do it like he's a Mark's brother is. That's where it's like, oh, JJ, there's this conversation going. Screw you. Oh. I'm Hux. I'm in the middle of my big speech, which is comparable and passionate to what I'm doing on Starkiller Base. I'm going to interrupt you and call you Hugs. Like, they're making fun of it. Your mask, your dumb mask, you loser with your dumb mask that JJ made important. Screw your mask. It was constantly making fun of what the other guy, oh, the resistance, let's just stick with that for 20 minutes. We're the rebellion already. It was constantly shitting on his ideas. I was like, is this conscious? Or am I just picking up on it that way? Or I felt like there was so much posturing between one person's ideas and the discarding of that. And part of it is, I got into an argument with someone online, not a bad one, but it was just like when you're storytelling, like when you're
Kyle,
always making stuff up.
If I can give you any advice, is don't argue with people
I
online.
know. I'm checking after today.
Argue
I'm
in
done
real life.
talking
It's so
Star
much more
Wars.
satisfying.
No, but they're like, well, you're always making stories up as you go, and you are. But it's you at a certain point you are passing the baton to another filmmaker, and that's the world we're living in. But it felt like there wasn't connective tissue between him sitting down and him saying, this is what I was intending, and him saying, that's great, I'll continue. It was a lot of, screw you, and not having to listen to any of it. And I wonder if 9's going to be a rejection of 8 in some way. And someone else was like, who cares what George Lucas thinks? Because I know he doesn't really like this movie. Who cares what he thinks? That's like inviting, doing a sequel to Hamlet, and George Lucas comes, or Shakespeare comes, and you're like, who cares what that guy thinks? You do have to care what that guy thinks. You know what I mean? And you do have to respect what he intended, or it was in the DNA of his 6 films.
Okay, we'll get to that point. That is a big can of worms. But I always said that moment, walking up the Jedi steps, handing over the lightsaber for 2 years, like no line, it's all going to be cheesy. And, me and Jason had talked about on the Patreon, I think it's like, he's throwing it. We thought he was going to throw it in the water. I was pissed. Yeah. I was like, you call that a throw, Skywalker? Love that thing in the walker, because there was that footage of Rey,
like Tommy Wiseau, and like just missed.
Yeah, because there was that footage of Rey underwater, and I'm like, oh, she's going in there to get the lightsaber.
Yeah.
And then I was like preempting that everyone was going to say, how does she know how to swim? And I was so disappointed. I thought that was going to be the big outrage about the film.
People are arguing about that though, and I'm like, she clearly can't swim.
Yeah.
Oh, she just is so athletic. She's like scaling Star Destroyer
She is
interior.
athletic. We saw
But
her
how can
kick
she swim?
ass in
She
Force
ki- I
Awakens.
know, she kicks ass. So it's like, that's ridiculous. Rey is badass.
But what about those like little telling moments with Luke though, where like when the tree's about to be burned up, and then it catches on fire, he flips out. He goes to run in there and get the books.
That's so funny.
I don't think Luke is completely gone all the way to the I'm quitting side. I think he has one foot in. He's in the pity party a bit, but I kind of think that my interpretation of the movie, which is just my personal interpretation, was that Luke knew he was going to have to do something that sucked for him, and that being there wasn't fun. It was painful. He knew what was coming next wasn't going to be cool. They've introduced things into like the visual dictionary, like I think that he's like the white costume is like his death costume, like his ceremonial death robes, and he's wearing that when like Rey shows up. But he's also wearing it in the flashback, so I kind of don't get how it makes complete sense. But with that in mind, like there are those like little tiny moments where, he's not completely sold. He isn't completely run. I think he's. You're right.
Standing up, step back.
Okay, no. No, I just want to send this to Kyle. No, but I mean, he definitely wants to like do the right thing, and he thinks. I mean, the moment in Jedi, he throws the saber on the ground. An act of pacifism is what saves the galaxy. Picking that lightsaber back up is what ruins it again. And so when he gets to the island and has decided to run, I still think that like there's sort of an internal logic there that makes sense to the pacifist idea, and to the fact that if he hadn't done it, they might not be in the situation that they're in today.
I'm okay with throwing the saber.
Yeah.
The reason we're talking about it,
You're not okay with it being a laugh.
it was not. If it was done in a way that. If it was done properly, we wouldn't be divided on it, and
Sure.
is my opinion. And Star Wars, I look at Star Wars, and
But Kyle,
1977, dude, Star Wars came out as a fairy tale. It's fantasy. It's escape from economic strife, war, politics, Nixon, bullshit, and it was pure fairy tale. And I look at this, and it's not. It's trying to be right now, and that's people are in a shit year, and they wanted escape, and they gave you a mirror. And they didn't give me fairy tale, and that is something I'm still at odds with, and that's something that is it's not even about story. It's in the DNA, baked into what the fuck Star Wars is to me, and why it worked as a phenomenon, as a zeitgeist thing. And this, as good as the movie is, I sit there and I go, it's not functioning on the level it used to or should. And I don't want someone to say, well, it's 40 years, someone's got to reinvent it. Fuck yourself. It doesn't have to be reinvented. We're sitting here, we're all wearing Star Wars stuff. It's killing it. They're opening Star Wars land. I don't need to be told that it needs to be reinvented.
Sure.
That's my problem with it. And so throwing a saber over the shoulder is like a real big slap in the face. Just like deal with it. It's like that's not how you tell myth. I don't see that in the Odyssey. I don't see that in classic great myth or fairy tale. And that stuff sticks out like a sore thumb to me.
That is how Ash opens 50% of her Christmas gifts.
It's me on Bumble.
What do you, I've heard a little bit of this, Anthony, about, like, say, The Force Awakens opened with a line that was perceived to be a diss against the prequels and George Lucas. Laura Sirikul saying this will make things right, which I've heard that people in the production say, oh, that we didn't even think about that, which...
Yeah, right.
I asked Brian Burke. I saw it with Brian Burke, and after the movie, I said, "You did that on purpose." He's like, "I swear to God, it's funny. We did not. I swear we didn't intend. No one brought it up. No one thought we were doing that." And he told me, he's like, "It wasn't intentional."
These people that J.J. Abrams gets to watch these films, I don't know what they're like to not pick up on that, and then at the end not to go, Chewie and Leia, they probably should hug. Like, they need better friends to come watch these screeners.
But at one point, I felt like, and maybe I'm wrong, you might know, that Rey had a different relationship to Leia. A lot of that stuff was changed in post-production on The Force Awakens. And I think some of that is still embedded in why she goes to Rey instead of Chewbacca. Maybe. I feel like when I read the novel, even the novel, so this tells me in the novelization, with the script he read, it says she embraces Rey the way only a mother could. That's in the novelization by Alan Dean Foster. So I felt like he read a script that she was related, and of course she would go to her before Chewbacca. But because that's been changed, then we're sitting around griping, and all he can say is, "Oh yeah, I made a mistake." But he's not going to say, "Oh yeah, she used to be so and so, and I changed it." I don't know. I think that's what I've heard. Jason might know more with his spy.
I don't know anything.
Yeah, there's definitely, when you watch The Force Awakens, there's ghosts of previous scripts in there for sure. What do you think about the theory that Rian or the production was dismissing concepts that J.J. Abrams introduced in The Force Awakens, with the Snoke dissing the mask, with the tossing of the saber, or like that sort of thing, with Hux getting absolutely belittled in a very hilarious manner?
I don't think that was a diss. The belittling thing. I think that's just playing with that character. Like he's very self-important, and that's how you take a little wind out of him. I do think, look, this is what happens when you don't have a single guiding vision the way there was George Lucas on the previous films. You're giving these films to different filmmakers, and they're improvising in a way, and they're handing it off, and they're starting new scenes, and JJ zigs and Ryan zags. And I think it's not so much, I don't think it's like meant as a diss, as in I'm going to insult you by getting rid of this. I think it's just maybe Ryan didn't connect as much with certain things in the franchise. I wonder about like JJ taking on Episode 9 and being like, "You've gotten rid of all of the toys. Like, you've gotten rid of Snoke, apparently gotten rid of Phasma." Although Ryan says Phasma is the Kenny,
my God, no.
is the Kenny from South Park of Star Wars. Yeah. He actually said that at the Academy screening. Of
That
the
is
movie, so.
that is
back,
some
I'm gonna be
puffer
upset.
jacket that she's wearing.
She can't come back. I nicknamed her Captain Asthma after the first movie because she did nothing.
Yeah, I'm sort of like, if she does come back, like I feel like I should be annoyed about it, but I'm just like, yeah.
You should be annoyed.
I'm okay with her coming back. I want to see her come back and see the mask come off, and she has just her beautiful Gwendolyn Christie face with like a burned eye and half of her face. Where
Okay,
the mask was sealed
helmetless, cool. That's cool.
So much of that movie, though.
No more chrome.
Sorry. So much of that movie, though, was like written before we had ever seen Force Awakens. Like, so we don't necessarily know what was sort of a let's toss that out. Like Snoke, for instance. I agree with what you're saying when you break it down, but at the same time, was Snoke supposed to be a question? Or did we make it, did we culturally get together and make it a question?
Do you know who started this, right? I was in LA, this is before I lived here, and I was flying back. It was maybe the start of December 2015. Mm-hmm. So, like at the airport, the news agents or the bookstore, whatever, it was low. Like, out the front, there was 50 Star Wars books. It was peak Star Wars, and I was about to fly back to Australia, and I picked up a copy of a little publication called Entertainment Weekly, and there was an article by a young maverick writer, and
Brez.
there was a thing about Snoke and saying he was really mysterious. And I was like, okay, this character's really mysterious. We've got to wonder who this is now. Breznican, it's your fault.
Wow. J'accuse. Okay.
No, but in the film itself, like the film as a text, I didn't leave Force Awakens going like, who's Snoke? What's he about? Like the movie, I didn't feel like it sold me that bill of goods.
No, but you have to, if you're gonna do a sequel to the two greatest villains of all time, you gotta go, why is it back? Who is pulling the strings? How are they different? They don't have to do it in the movie, in dialogue. They don't have to do it, but they have to have an answer to that, and I have to feel like they have an answer to that, and I don't feel. And the thing with Snoke is, for me, it's Luke could have even said something like, I can't beat him. I can't go back. She's like, why the hell did you quit? And he's like, he can't be beaten. I can't do it. That tells me why Luke gave up, why he felt like he couldn't even try to rectify his mistake. And it also tells me that Snoke he's been around for 10,000 years. He's a Celestial. I don't need to know that he's a Celestial, but I need to know that in Luke's eyes, he's undefeatable. I need to feel it from an emotional place, what this character means, because he is the reason Han and Luke ran away. That's it. I have to feel it.
Fair enough.
That's what I got to feel. And so I'm not asking for backstory. I'm not asking for emotional data. Pablo's books are badass. I love them because it's given me more context than was in the movie. Brian Young is online. He's fansplaining everything, thank God, because a lot of it, Brian Young is a badass. He knows everything. And I learned so much reading Brian Young, and we go back and forth. I've done prequel appreciation panels with Brian Young. He's a brilliant Star Wars mind. You guys got to read his threads. But I'm like, every franchise needs Brian Young. Where is Brian Young in the DC universe saving that shit? Because he's literally giving political context and everything to people that don't read the books.
Dude, I don't need a 30-tweet thread from Brian Young about how the word Martha is so important. All right?
But apparently, we do. Fandom does, because fandom's like, what? Hosnian Prime? What? The New Republic blew up. The whole fleet was lost. All the senators were on those planets. What are you talking? Nobody knows what was going on politically. The economic, political situation was not adequately set up in The Force Awakens. And Rian Johnson's not his fault. It just wasn't in the DNA for him, and he didn't take the time in this film to go back and fill in some of those gaps.
I have two small children, and they definitely said that they wanted to understand the political socioeconomic situation of the galaxy. That was one of the flaws that they did.
One of them, yeah.
That does sound like something your children would say, though, Anthony.
8 and 5. The 5-year-old was like, but the socioeconomic.
More taxation, right?
They were like,
Anthony's raising some very woke younglings.
My whole thing, though, is that I think Force Awakens should have done it. Number one, at some point, they probably knew what they were going to be doing for Last Jedi while Force Awakens was pretty far along. And that I think that Force Awakens should have been the one that said, here's who Homeboy is. Here's what he's about. Because
does anyone know that Leia started the Resistance because the New Republic wasn't believing the threat of Snoke, and then she plucked Poe out of the New Republic military to lead? But that's kind of it's interesting, and it gives a context to why there is a resistance. Why now? Why is the First Order just rearing their head?
She's running kind of like a shadow military assault.
90%
Like these sort
of the people
covert.
don't know that. And I'm 5 hours into this new trilogy, and Poe was like, "Hey, I'm Poe. Nice to meet you." I'm like, "Your two of your main three characters just met on screen 5 hours into this 7-hour epic."
They're gonna make out.
It's weird to me.
But
but it's only a week later. We've only seen a week.
Well, I just assumed he met her after Starkiller Base was destroyed.
I yelled
so
they hadn't met.
Who was it? Somebody was on
there.
Twitter, though, saying, throughout the movies, all Rey hears is that she's nobody. She's this worthless scavenger in the first film. In this one, Kylo Ren tells her she's nobody. Luke Skywalker says, "Who are you?" And when she meets Poe at the end, she's like, "Yeah, I'm Rey." He's like, "I know who you are."
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I can't claim credit for that, but somebody online tweeted that, and I was like, that actually is pretty good.
It's a good rationalization of it. I didn't feel that.
I want to. If I'm watching a Star Wars movie, I want to feel
I
it.
felt it.
And I didn't. But that's a great point. But you learn those things by talking about it, and I think we give Star Wars a pass a lot of times because collectively our consciousness, we study it, we talk about it online, we report about it, we all are committed to it, and we learn more from each other about it, which is cool.
Well, like we have to like look at what the resistance does, though. They just resist. They're in secret. It's not like a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal, but it's like stuff might go down. We got to be ready for it. And then it does go down. So the point wasn't that I think that there's a resistance. I think the point of the resistance is how do we get to open rebellion? And I think that's what Last Jedi did. So I think Rian Johnson got us there. And,
Wow.
and that was like my reading of it, though. And I am with you, though. You shouldn't buy a Journey to Force Awakens book to understand the film. I don't think that should ever be a prerequisite for anything.
Well, you should still buy it because that's a great book.
yeah. But it's that kind of situation where if they had done that, we would have got a bunch of exposition setting up why there's a resistance. Then we get to 8, kill the resistance, start the rebellion, and then it would have been kind of a waste of time.
You don't have to only tell things in exposition.
Sure.
There's good writing tells it through character, and I could learn about Snoke, feel who he is by how Luke is afraid or why he's done it. So there's an emotional repercussion to the choice.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be exposition.
But I think that JJ set up the trilogy, and then Rian Johnson took it where it was going to go, where it needs to go, where I think they wanted to go. And in doing that, he didn't answer that previous guy's stuff. I think that calls back to the idea that there's not one person making these movies, that they keep passing them along. But I think that, I don't think, some of what happens in Last Jedi is Rian Johnson's fault. I think it's more on the Bad Robot team.
But there's also say there's when they make Rebels and they do the Rebels recon afterwards, but they film it before the cartoon comes out, so it's out that week, and they answer the questions that people are going to have from that cartoon. And my thing's always like, why don't you put the answers to the questions in the cartoon, and then there's not those questions? And I think that sometimes when they're making these movies, they rely on all the books and all the other things that we're going to buy to fill in that stuff for, when you point out how the Resistance got started with Princess Leia. They were ignoring the threat, got Poe Dameron, great pilot in The New Republic or whatever it was called. And I know that because I read, I think, Bloodline or something.
Bloodline's a great book.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But
that's the best one.
But that point of what the Resistance is compared to the Republic or whatever it was called in The Last Jedi it's void from the movie completely, except that it's called The Resistance. And I think there's that, they fall back on the books and the comics, which are awesome, but there's sometimes things slip through the cracks that go to those books that would enrich the mainstream. I have one Funko Pop, the Blu-rays, and I'll go to the movies on the first week. Jimmy the ticket buyer. You know that dude, right? Yep. So he's not getting catered for. But I also think when you talk about the differences in the script, is making the films every 2 years was foolish, because you're submitting the script the day that the film's premiering, and so you're writing a sequel to a third draft or a second draft. I hear you're in show business. Is that a foolhardy proposition? Except for the fact that pumping out films every 2 years makes crazy bank.
I think it's the economic windfall is why they're doing it. They're immediately trying to recoup. I do feel like it would benefit from an extra year of development. And they have so many great, brilliant people up at Lucasfilm, from Pablo and Leland, Matt Martin, Rain, all those people on the story group. You have Dave Filoni. I want to feel like all those resources are really being utilized, and people aren't autonomously just going, I'm going to make a personal Star Wars film for me. And let's say, well, hold on, let's actually, that's cool, you want to do that, but let's also make that fit into this 40-year phenomenon, so we're not derailing things. And I think it would enrich it if they just utilized
all those resources and maybe took a little more time and weren't so quick to do it, you could have a Star Wars film every year and a half. I wouldn't complain. Take a little more time.
I think like 18 months a film is
Here's one thing I heard. It was the red carpet, interviews and stuff, and I was watching at StarWars.com, and they were talking about they'd never screened this movie for more than 8 people at a time. That's crazy to me. Not that you have to focus group and listen to like a hive mind, but you learn by screening your movie for an audience. That's the nature of it. You want to feel what people are connecting with, what's working, what's not, and you learn from that. And then as the filmmaker, you master that, and you go do what you want to do, author it the way you want. So I just think it's short-sighted to not even screen it and get that experience for a movie that's meant to be screened en masse. So I was like, whoa, that's a red flag to me. Hopefully they learn from some of these things and say, well, it's healthy. Let's do these things. Let's workshop the story a little more. Let's anticipate how people might react, And there's a lot of, right now, justifying and explaining and entrenching, and we meant to do that. But I don't know if all of it, I don't think they weren't expecting the division. That's what I believe. I wouldn't think they're like, we're going to go show those fans and divide them. I think they're blindsided by it. And you asked that earlier to somebody here, and I don't think they were expecting that.
Now, we touched on it before about George Lucas, who, created the whole franchise, sold it to Disney. He knew what he was doing. He was a big boy. I'm interested from all the panel, do you think it's important, like whether he did or not, if George Lucas enjoys the films after he left? And there's also the thing of like, is it possible? Is it possible for Peter Cetera to enjoy the work of Chicago after he leaves? They're my people. Jason, what do you think?
No, I don't. I want George Lucas to like them. I hope that he does. But I'm with you. I think it would be impossible. Because I think no matter what, it's like going into your old house and somebody's redecorated it and repainted it. Even if it looks better than when it was your house, you're still gonna be like, I wouldn't have done that, or I wouldn't have done that. And that stuff is gonna stick out to you. I wish George hadn't walked away, but since he walked away, went to his Octu, I'm just like, I guess I want to care, but I just don't now because he quit. If he kept doing it, I would care more. But
do you think he walked?
I do.
You wait your turn,
Well,
Mr. Newman.
he walked all the way to the bank.
Laura, what do you think?
I think George disconnected with the franchise, kind of like because like Disney made back their money actually, because they sold it. Just with this film, they made back the money, and now everything going forward will be profit. But I feel like George kind of like, when I look at his vision of how he did it, and I feel like he's just kind of disconnected where, like, he goes, I don't think he cares. Because I think he does care about his baby that, I gave it, but he walked away, and he's like, I don't think when he watches it, I think, of course, he's going to have his own mentality of what he visioned, but I don't think he's going to be, it's strong enough to be, like, saying outright, like, no, this is not right.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think he just kind of was like, I wouldn't do it this way, but oh well, and just go into his $1 billion home and be like, okay, whatever.
Because I remember seeing, when they had the red carpet for The Force Awakens, and the camera would be on him when he didn't know. They didn't know, like he didn't know the camera was on him. He's just walking around with his wife, and he looks like the most miserable, like it's just like, this is my Twilight Zone episode where I said everyone else got to see a Star Wars film but me. And so here you go, walk in and watch this Star Wars film. And he's like, it's what I've always wanted and now I hate it. Like, it was just watching the look on his face, it was just like, stop, like put him down. Like, he is miserable. What do you think, Anthony? Do you think his impression of the film is important?
I don't know if other people here have kids, but when you have them, your parents, the grandparents, like to think that they're wise and they're going to offer some tips and help. And when you're like, and sometimes they do. And other times you're like, no, we got it. Times are different now. It's okay. And there's always a like a disconnect. Like, well, I knew better.
That's a good analogy.
You know better, right? You know what I mean? Like, so I think George thought he was going to come in and be sort of like the grandpa of Star Wars. Like, he wouldn't have to carry the burden of managing all the films and writing them and creating them, but he could weigh in and he would offer advice, and that advice would be gratefully heeded. And instead what he found was, no, thanks for the treatments. We're good. We have some of our own ideas about how we're going to raise these new Star Wars babies. And his response was like, oh, well,
You
okay
damn kids.
then. And like, yeah. And I think that he took a little bit of umbrage about that as we heard him say, what was it like being sold into white slavery? or
Oh,
something?
yeah,
It
that was a
like,
great
oh, really, not the greatest choice of words, right? That's what he said, though.
No, he did
said,
say
yeah,
that.
I didn't. Those aren't my words.
Well, dialogue was never his specialty.
Yes, it never was. Here is George, I think, deserves credit. He is one of the greatest producers who has ever lived. And what does a producer do? There's all sorts of different types of producers, but his strength is putting together an amazing team. He is the Hannibal from A-Team of Hollywood producers. Like, he puts together an amazing team, and he loves it when a plan comes together. Like, and he, did somebody groan? Stretch that metaphor a little too far. And that's, in a sense, what he has done here. Is that he has created Star Wars, but the strength of Star Wars was
Can I just say, much like the A-Team was on the run from the law,
Yeah.
he was on the run from Hollywood.
Yes, he was. But part of Star Wars isn't fully George Lucas's thing to claim credit for. Like, he deserves credit for hiring John Williams, who did amazing music, and for hiring Dennis Muren, who did groundbreaking visual effects, and for hiring Ben Burtt, who reinvented sound design for the Star Wars film. And all of these great actors, Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, like, putting them in the movie. Like, he assembles great teams, and he has done that again, whether he wants to claim credit for that or not. Like, there are things he's not great at. Writing is one of them. Directing, he's like another. And, you know, not that he's like the worst at them. There are certainly people who are worse, but he's not. Those aren't his strengths. I think his strength is putting together an amazing team. And I think that there's a great metaphor for George within The Last Jedi when Yoda tells Luke, we are what we grow beyond. And that's what's happening, whether he likes it or not. He's handed these things off. The people that grew up with under his films, under his storytelling, are now telling stories of their own. They're the parents, he's the grandpa, and he just has to accept that and kind of roll with it and enjoy it. And it's hard. But I think he'll be okay.
So are you saying that Rian Johnson was dissing J.J. Abrams and George Lucas in the script?
No, I think he was dissing him.
No, that's enough. You've said enough.
No, I wish I knew how George felt about Yoda. That was my thing when I was watching it. I was like, oh, I wonder how George is feeling about Yoda being this troll again. Like,
Yeah. I think the fact that Frank Oz did it was, I don't know, it's sort of that validating thing about it. What do you think, Ash?
Did you guys see, first of all, that Frank Oz has a Twitter account and he like fights with people online? It's pretty amazing. No, your analogy was way better because I was gonna say I feel like it's like you're in a relationship for a long time and you break up and you like love that person and then they're with someone else and everyone keeps asking you how you feel about their new relationship and you're just like, I don't care. Stop asking me. We're not together anymore.
Both valid analogies.
They're great. This is a good person,
We
but
just come
I'm
from different
done.
points in
I
our
don't
lives.
have any kids.
I've got to feed my meter.
Do you really?
He really does.
Can I go do that?
Yeah, you can do that.
See you later,
Okay.
everybody.
But
hi. Now we can talk about.
let's keep
Rose.
talking. Let's keep talking. But how do you find George Lucas? Like, do you hold his impression of the film at how much importance do you have in that?
I think it's important, like with what you were saying with the Shakespeare analogy, that was good. But I also think that his view is not going to be 100% not honest, but I just think that he has this, like, when you're I don't know, it's like the breakup thing. Like, I just don't think that you can look at a film and be like, this is great, I'm so glad I sold this, oh my God. Like, he's never going to do that.
Yeah, I just think it's too much. Like, he wanted something, like he wanted to go watch them, but did he really?
No, I wouldn't want to watch them, would you? Like,
I really like Star Wars.
If that was yours, would you want to watch them? I wouldn't.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, I mean, like he spent his whole career trying to get out of Hollywood and not being a corporate filmmaker. So it was kind of like I always expected that he was gonna walk. That like it wasn't gonna work with Disney and him in the end. Like I was like the minute it happened, I was like, this is a countdown to when this self-destructs because there was no way. I love the prequel films. I don't think we'll ever get movies like those again. I don't think we'll ever get anything as wild as that. I hope Rian Johnson does it with his new trilogy, but I don't think we'll ever get where like the whole universe is redesigned and moved into a different era. Like even like what we're seeing in the sequel trilogy right now, it's like it's an X-wing, but it's a little bit more sleeker. Oh look, the stormtroopers are iPod-y, but they're still stormtroopers. You know.
Kyle, how much importance do you
Wait,
place?
what happened to Anthony? He's gone.
I know.
He disappeared. He was
Oh my
just
God,
right
he
there.
turned into a
Force
porg.
projected.
It's because I wouldn't call him the Brez. He
This has
left.
been my dream.
How much importance do you place on George Lucas's impression of the film on the quality of the film?
A great amount. I think he's a supreme visionary. I think he's up there with Walt Disney over the past 100 years of people that see things and transform culture, the pop culture.
Can I tangent you just now?
Yeah.
Does that mean that Walt Disney should enjoy like all the Pixar films? Like how far do you take that like correlation?
It's different because Disney passed. If he was alive, or here's the thing, George Lucas. He said one of the saddest things I'd ever heard. I forget the exact quote, but he said something like, "The fans don't want me to do anything anymore. They want me dead," or something like that. And that was the climate. He was prepping to make sequel films himself. He was moving forward with a studio up near Big Rock next to it. It was like everything was moving forward with this plan to have a stage to do it. The community didn't even want George Lucas in San Francisco anymore. They're like, "Get out of here. Fuck you." And he had to like get rid of his property, get rid of his plan. Everybody, our own culture of Star Wars fans, pushed him out, made him feel like he was the worst, like he was Satan. And he had to get rid of the thing he loved. This came out of this man's head. Every story, J.R.R. Martin, whoever, J.K. Rowling, she didn't make the films, but this came out of her head, and you should hold it up to the standard which she thinks the story should be told. And he created this. This is his universe. Yeah, other people came in and played with his toys and elevated it and made it better. That's what directors and producers do. You set your ego aside and say, come into this. You're better at production design. Go elevate this. You're better at creatures. You go do this. You're better at this. You come in and do a polish. He's brilliant like that, and he accepted that help. He's a genius. He's a visionary. He changed cinema. He changed the way we make cinema. He changed the way we view cinema. Editing. The idea of like Avids, Photoshop, everything sprung out of the forward progress that he instituted. Also, he always gave back philanthropically, financially, to all these things and reinvested it in the art of film. He's a goddamn genius. And you better respect what he says. The fact that we're even like people just don't value his importance and they think it's all about money. He was forced out of his company. He didn't want to give up Star Wars. He wanted to go make those sequel films. He realized that we would automatically by default hate them because his name was attached. That's how sad it became, that we can't have good things. And I love the prequels. They're not without flaw. I love the stories within them. The movies have their issues. But I've always been a prequel fan and defender. And I know that he likes some of these new movies, and I know that he doesn't like other ones. So I think he's smart enough and wise enough as a human being to say some are good and some aren't. And some of them are in line with my core intention, and I think that's all he can ask for. And I know he's going to go into it jaded. I know he's going to be bitter, and you're going to have to really blow him away to get a thumbs up from him. But I know he likes one of them more than the other two, and that's at least what I've heard. So it's not like he's going to hate them all.
Does he like the one that involves the Force the less?
Was it Rogue One?
I don't know. If I think the one you're talking about, I think it involves the Force the most in a beautiful way, but
I just got Newman.
I don't know.
Newman.
I don't know. And all like it's as I hear things, I'm interested to hear what the man who created this stuff would think, because he is fortunate. He's alive, so he's seeing. He always said, "I'm going to create Star Wars so other people can come into my universe and play, and pass it off to other filmmakers."
Someone's like, what do you think of Yoda? Well, in his original stuff, Yoda came back into a corporeal form with Obi-Wan, and they were able to help in the end fight in the original Return of the Jedi. He explored those ideas.
Do you like that idea?
I like that he explored that idea.
Okay.
I like that he's open to it and he's exploring.
Because that is one thing. So in the original Return of the Jedi screenplay, like the original draft, Obi-Wan and Yoda came back as physical beings and helped Luke, which after seeing Return of the Jedi, and it's my favorite film, it just seems, whoa. But like an angry YouTuber says they threw out his scripts, or his, not even scripts, but his outlines. And it's like, well, George Lucas threw out his first outlines for most of his films as well. Like if you read the comic book The Star Wars, Han Solo's like a green wizard.
But that was his very early draft.
Yeah, but that's like, so is an outline. That's an earlier draft. So is it like this criminal thing that...
No, he sold it knowing it was going to get thrown out.
But if Disney stuck with those original drafts, then
I think he expected
then Obi-Wan would have come back in Return of the Jedi. Like that's the equivalency where now if that had happened, you're like, oh, that's weird. So they have to take like those ideas and like from what I gather, the character of Rey is like derived from the character of Kira. Jason could maybe clarify, but that is from a George Lucas like outline, and the whole thing about Luke Skywalker being he's put himself into purgatory or whatever, that's a George Lucas concept.
Yes, but he's in purgatory, but why and how? Like in The Force Awakens, it just feels like he went into a purgatory because he made a mistake or needed to learn more. That's why he went to the most mystical spiritual place with the crux of the Jedi knowledge. Why would you go there if your intention was just to die? Why didn't you just go to Ryloth? Like, it doesn't make it... So it felt like JJ set up something that then they just neglected. But the one thing I really wanted out of this, and I think it's important for the 9-film Skywalker saga, is that Anakin Skywalker, regardless of how you feel about Hayden Christensen, has to play a part. It is the third act of his life. And I wanted it to be Anakin instead of Yoda. And Yoda's cool, and he gets on mugs and coffee cups. But Anakin's the badass move for him to say, don't do it. Don't burn it down. He's already burned it down. And he'd be like, why the hell are you back? Where have you been for 30 years? He's finally the father or the grandfather he never was. It's more challenging. It's more narratively interesting rather than just going, we don't like Hayden Christensen. That's more interesting that this is Anakin. We just saw him just as equally a ghost as Yoda at the end of Return of the Jedi. I just think that's more badass. So I just felt it was safe. And I was like, where is Anakin? This is Anakin Skywalker's 6 films, you told me. Where is Anakin in this? And it's one scene with Hayden Christensen with a different director. And George also is a badass director. Like, if you have not seen American Graffiti or THX, they're fucking awesome. So he is a good director.
But
he is.
What do you know about directing?
You learn. You know what? You always learn. Like, I visit everyone's set. I look this process. I can't imagine what Rian Johnson's going through, stepping into this role, inheriting the most successful domestic film of all time, like stepping into that and then trying to still make a movie that makes sense and is enjoyable to him. It's scary and daunting as it is, and it's everyone be kind to him online. He did a great job. He tried stuff. Some worked, some didn't. You know what I mean? It's like I'm excited for Rian Johnson's trilogy. That's going to be awesome. He's not going to be inhibited by anything that came before. He's not going to be hamstrung by ideas that weren't his own. So that's an exciting thing to see a Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy. So
he wants him to be like Jacob Marley visiting.
I said I'd prefer Anakin coming back since were his 6 films of Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, I always found the thought of Anakin coming back, like he's a ghost.
Scary.
Better seen than heard. Like, what is he going to say?
He would have a conversation about failure.
Which Anakin would it be? Like
Hayden Christensen.
No, but which, like, he's sort of been redeemed, but from what era of Anakin is he back to? Like, do you know what I mean? Is he
when he's the light?
Well, his lessons would be about attachment if he was to come in. So if they were going to bring Anakin back, they're going to have to make the theme about attachment for the new heroes. And the new heroes so far don't really have that issue. Or like Kylo, he seems to be detached. So it's like the exact opposite. No, I'm with you. I want Hayden back as Anakin somewhere.
In the Obi-Wan movie.
I'll take it.
No, I want him. I want him in the Roman numeral 9 Star Wars. That franchise. This has been Anakin's thing. I mean, that's how they've retrofitted it to be. We earned it. And is it a challenging scene to write? Yes. But that's the context of it now.
That original version of Jedi had the ghost of Obi-Wan and Yoda showing up. The Emperor looks at them like, what is that? Vader knows it's his moment, grabs Palpatine, jumps into the lava, and kills them both. Then the ghost of Obi-Wan saves the good ghost of Anakin, and that's how he's a ghost at the end. That was in George Lucas's Return of the Jedi script.
Does the ghost of Obi-Wan flow in like a lava retardant like life buoy?
No, they're just like
ghost?
peace, and Palpatine's like, what? And then and then it happened. But point is that they could have done that in Last Jedi. They could have taken it there. That could have been what killed Snoke. That could have been what distracted Snoke for that move to happen. But I don't want it.
Now, we do have to wrap things up because we've. I made a promise.
Can I tell a story really quick? Because
Sure.
I was telling you this a little bit backstage, and I wanted to bring it up that I interviewed Kelly Marie Tran about 2 days before The Last Jedi came out, or the premiere date, and I asked her what her favorite moment was so far, and she said in an interview, I have it on video, meeting you dressed as Rose.
Woo!
Thank you for that.
That's so weird because I'm not in the Star Wars film. I met you. It was good, but it's way down on the ladder of best things.
Oh no, you just haven't realized.
All right, so I saw this thing.
Wait a minute, should we interrupt for a moment here? Yeah, we got a second over here. I thought it was a glowing force ghost in the back of the room, and it was candles.
Steele's birthday's on Monday.
Steele's birthday.
Old man Sanders.
Thank you.
Okay, ready?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
There's two versions.
Dear Steele Wars. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday
To you.
You're a hot dog.
And there's a little card. I'll read that in a little sec. Thank you, everyone. And it's on a chocolate eclair, which I absolutely adore. Okay, I watched one of my favorite YouTube channels is this really cool channel called Hello Greedo. It's a very sane Star Wars commentary YouTube channel. He's been on the podcast, and he did two YouTube videos, the 5 best things about The Last Jedi, the 5 worst things. Now, I've mixed them up, so you don't know whether they were his best or worst, but they're pertinent things. Now, we're short on time, so a quick comment if you have it, or just a thumbs up or thumbs down. There's 10 things. Keep a count, and we'll see if by this highly scientific polling thing, if The Last Jedi is a thumbs up or thumbs down for you. All right?
Okay.
Kyle, bear with me on this one. All right. First up, Yoda. Thumbs up, thumbs down, Jason.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
It's an audio medium.
Thumb up.
Okay. Ray and Luke.
Thumbs up.
I'm in the middle.
Thumbs up or down, Laura?
Closer to up.
That's an up.
Up.
I say up.
Up.
Could have been better.
All right. So you're like a Laura with attitude.
I'm in the middle, but you said it has to be one or the other.
I'll say up, he's down, so it's okay.
Okay. So you can go down. It's fine.
No,
And
I'll go up first for this one.
You going up? Okay. Because there was a bit of thing about Yoda, about how did you feel about the effect of Yoda, like the whole puppet?
Could have been better.
Yeah.
It didn't feel.
It was like at
didn't
first
feel
it was weird.
translucent.
Yeah.
My action figure was more translucent than the Yoda on screen.
I don't know if I'm.
The puppet looked good. The effect of translucency was poor.
The one thing I did like, and I'm not sure if this is just old man talking, but I like a mixed response puppet Yoda than a mixed response CGI Yoda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Kylo and Rey, and
Oh my
in that
God.
you can add the Rey reveal of the parentage. Jason.
Yeah, thumbs up.
Okay, I like that part.
Up.
Thumbs up. I hated the Reylo ship, and then I was like, you know what? I think I'm into this.
No, I'm not into the
Giving
radio
it
shit.
all 3 thumbs up. That's the best part. That kept the movie alive. I loved it.
Yeah, when Rey and Kylo, when there was the death of Snoke and they went to fight, that was when I was just like, let's go movie. Like I've seen some stuff that I'm just like, wow. But yeah, those two back to back about to take on the Praetorians, which I am so curious why they couldn't have just dropped in that I've got your Knights of Ren thing, because it's just like you had 6 or so dudes, I've got 6 or so dudes.
Choose different weapons.
Snoke's throne room, Jason.
Thumbs up.
That was nice, but I don't know. We did 5-5, right? Or was it 4-4?
There's 5 and 5. And you can say whatever you want, Laura.
I'm trying to remember it. I'll say thumbs up.
Okay.
The scene or the set? Like just
The scene or the set?
No, just the whole
is
scene.
great.
The scene.
The scene is good, yeah.
Yeah.
Up.
Scene,
up,
yeah.
way up.
Up, way up. It's awesome.
Okay. The one bizarre criticism I had of it that I heard, not mine, was how did Snoke not hear the lightsaber scraping? And it's just like, if you're worried about that, buddy,
I kind of wish they didn't even show that. Like, if they just did the whole... Because, like, we predicted it, right? Once it started moving, we were like, okay.
Yeah, people said it was too projected, but I enjoyed the ride of just like going, you're gonna get it, Snoke.
That's
you're gonna get
dramatic
it.
irony. Knowing Snoke's gonna get it, but he doesn't. That's
Yeah.
fine. People are overthinking it.
Admiral Holdo.
Thumbs up.
Oh, yeah, that's a thumbs up. I'm going to have to, yeah.
Up. Thumbs up.
Up. She's
Yeah, my
amazing.
lady. Love her.
Down.
Down. Ooh.
If you want an
Justice for
explanation,
Akbar.
No, I didn't feel. I felt it was Laura Dern. I didn't feel like Mon Mothma or Maideen energy. I just felt an ordinary. I don't know. And I didn't like the faux coup thing happening. I didn't like all that.
Sorry, I
But
didn't
no,
understand.
Down.
Down.
We're moving on. It's a fucking down for me.
I will have to say, and this is a problem I've read online, if your problem is the hair color, there is a green elf that levitates spaceships in the film.
She looks
so
My hair used to literally
I
be
want
that color.
a Holdo action figure. I like it. It's narrative stuff.
all right, this could be a bit more contentious. Maz Kanata.
Down.
Down.
I'll go down on that one too. Yeah.
You know what? Up. She hooked up with Justin Theroux.
Yeah, but it's like so short, too. I was just like, oh.
Maz Kanata gets it.
I thought the fighting. She seems a little predatory to me. Okay. She's always like macking on Wookiees
Yeah, she
and
is.
no hackers.
I relate.
She's like a golden girl. No, I think it's way down for me because it paid no homage or reverence to who she was established in the other film as a slightly mystical character. She was Skyping in a bad.
Yeah.
They're in a union dispute. It's hilarious.
No. That is my first of all of these.
terrible.
That is my first thumbs down. I felt like I was on Star Tours.
Somebody went to the bathroom, they came back
Yeah.
and said Maz Kanata was on Skype and told them where to go. And they're like, no, they didn't. And after the movie, they went outside like, was she really in the movie? And they're like, yeah. And they could not believe she was in the movie. It was the worst use of a cool character.
It was such a waste of Lupita. Like, she's so wonderful, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's it?
How does she even know Poe? He's like, I got an idea. She hated Finn 2 days ago. What? That didn't make sense. It's terrible.
But Maz Kanata from midway through The Force Awakens just got so... They never said goodbye to her. Then the storyline totally ignores that she just got made homeless like 3 days ago in the storyline. And then the jetpack.
She's in a trade
She
dispute.
hooked up with Justin Theroux.
Give-
Hilarious.
Dude, give me a hologram Billy D. Williams for that one. That
Oh yeah, that would have been cool. That would have been cool.
I got one of your applauses. I'm so happy. Leia flying.
Thumbs down.
Thumbs down.
Thumbs up. I love that.
I'm gonna go thumbs down. I think it would have been more effective in a different way. Like it could have been like instant instead of being like 10 minutes.
For me, it's a thumbs down. It would have been thumbs up if she flew the ship through the supremacy. She sacrificed for the rebellion. Luke sacrificed for the Jedi. They went out as twins. They came in as twins. She even flies right through the hologram of the supremacy, foreshadowing it. They didn't seize the opportunity. No, it's not good.
Okay,
Down.
Okay, I'm not debating your thumbs down, but would you have sacrificed the
Yes.
Leia Luke scene?
Yes.
Me too. Same.
Jesus.
Easy. Easy.
Damn.
It's not about making everyone happy. It's about doing what the story demands.
Well, they already connected. Like mentally, they could have just done that again earlier in the film.
They could have
Done.
connected like. And,
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Rose saving Finn on crate. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Up.
Down. I think John Boyega should have gone down.
Yeah.
I'll give it an
Or
up.
not John, I guess
I'll
Finn.
give the moment an up of saving, but she should have died after. So it's up.
Ooh, okay. I'm a thumbs down. I wanted everyone to live, but I thought how that was done was a little bit bizarre. And I also think if either of them died, it would have been emotionally nothing because Luke Skywalker just died, so we wouldn't have had the impact of them. Save their death for when it's their solo death. Like, if you're like,
He didn't
oh
die
my God,
yet."
Luke Skywalker died, and Rose. Like, it's just...
Yep.
Like, dramatically, it doesn't add up.
Well, it gave us the best quote. That's why I really enjoyed it too.
Yeah, and I do love that people diss that quote as corny when it's just a précis of a Martin Luther King quote and you're calling him corny. Okay, good values. We've said enough about that. The whole Canto Bite sequence, Jason.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. I felt like it was useful.
Yeah, up.
On my third viewing, it's an up.
Down.
Wow.
And Brian Young actually did a great
I
thread about
wanted to
that.
feel chemistry if that's what was going. I didn't. In hindsight, I watched it many times now, and I'm hoping for something more. On a creature level, cool, but it's
The worst was, and I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but I thought his Slow and Low was the most obnoxious character in the movie.
If Maz didn't tell them to go there, I would have probably liked it better. What was she?
It's like Foghorn Leghorn in Star Wars.
Yeah, give him a parking ticket. Yeah. I'll say.
The I should say Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, the actual actor, is Details. That's been on our show a couple of times, and he was one of the gamblers in The Force Awakens, and he was a droid at the start of Rogue One as well. Oh, cool. So that was sort of like he's like a massive Star Wars fan that does all this creature work. So I was very happy about that. The people that complain about Canto Bite for the CGI of the Faviers, it's like, it's a Star Wars film. You've signed up for a questionable CGI sequence in the middle of the film. Dude, you've got the Raftars, you've got Bor Gullet, you've got the Faviers. Deal with it, all right? In the middle of the film, there's going to be a CGI sequence that some of you are not going to like. All right, Luke on crate, Jason.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Loved it. Thumbs up.
The biggest thumbs up.
Thumbs up was badass.
I'm a massive thumbs up.
He was Clint Eastwood in Star Wars. I love him.
It's like so well directed, like a great little samurai scene with barely any strokes from it. It's so good. Yeah.
All right, so Jason, what are you out of 10?
8 out of 10.
Oh my God, I was supposed to
Laura?
count.
Oh, for what? For the movie?
No. Like the
many
thumbs
thumbs
up,
up?
thumbs down. I did
Yeah.
preface at the start to count.
Didn't keep count.
I didn't keep count.
Oh,
I think I did 2 thumbs down.
how many thumbs down did you do?
I think maybe 3, 4. 4 thumbs down, I think. I think so I have 6.
6 out of 10.
I think I was 8.
I think I was 8.
I think I was 4
I don't know.
down.
Does anyone know?
I had a couple 50-50s that I had to
I think you were
pick on, but
50-50.
I think I was 4 down and 6 up.
6. So you're 6 out of 10. I think I'm 7 out of 10. Thus concludes. I hope everyone enjoyed the debate, the discussion.
saved a lot of lives here.
And this is what it's about. We like these films. We're sane. There's bits that some of us like. There's bits of us some of us don't. And just discuss it without all this like stupidity that embarrasses Star Wars fandom as a whole. So thanks so much for coming, you guys. Thank you to Jason Ward, Laura Sirikul, Anthony the Breznican, Ash Crossan, and Kyle Newman. Huge thanks to JC and all the crew at the Scum and Villainy Cantina. Stick around because I'm going to be getting super drunk because it's Australian.
Let's do it.
And my birthday on Monday.
You're not already drunk?
Thanks also to the Black Series Rebels guys for recording it. Really appreciate that. The controversy is over because all we've got for the end of the year is a film about Han Solo that has been totally without controversy for its whole production. What can go wrong? I am Steele Saunders and I do love Star Wars. Thank you very much. Hey you guys, thanks for watching. Who did you agree with most on the panel? Let us know in the comments below. But keep it chill. It's only a space film. And if you like this reaction, check out our full-length Solo and Star Wars Rebels finale live reactions in full on YouTube. And for fun, in-depth Star Wars interviews, event coverage, and so much more, check out the Steele Wars podcast on iTunes, steelewars.com, or wherever good podcasts are downloaded. Oh yeah, like and subscribe. Do that. Hit the bell as well. It's all good. Go on.